Hey guys, Terry Red here, and in this video, we're going to go back to the beginning. What do I mean? I mean the very beginning of your journey in this virtual pinball hobby. So, you've seen some of my videos and some other people's videos of, playing cool virtual pinball games, whether it's visual pinball, future pinball, Pinball FX3, in our fancy cabinets with all this crazy lighting and all this other stuff. And you're like, man, I want to do that, but I have no idea where to start. Like, where do I start for just the software? Or maybe, maybe you're someone who decides, you know what? I've seen stuff about Pinup Player, and I want to, play some of those cool PuP-Packs, but I want to be able to do it in a desktop setup. So I want to be able to, for example, play a visual pinball table with a direct B2S backglass and Pinup Player videos. Or I want to be able to play future pinball on a desktop with Pinup Player videos, PuP-Packs, and I want to be able to do Pinball FX3 with the Aliens PuP-Pack on my desktop, or I want to be able to, do a cool PuP-Pack on Visual Pinball that has, instead of DMDs, a cool PuP scoring now that looks way better than the old school DMDs. So we're gonna go through in this video. This is where you start, the very, very beginning. We're just gonna show you the essentials to install before you move on to installing Future Pinball or FX3 or other parts. So whether you're a desktop user who only wants to do what you see in these pictures, or if you want to do what you see in the cabinet here being played, any of those guys, you're all going to start at the same spot. So we're going to show you how to install the basic essentials of virtual pinball software, and then in separate videos, I'll just go through the more specifics about how to set up Future Pinball or how to set up a Pinball FX3 or how to install DOFLinx. Those will be in separate videos. So we're just going to start at the beginning. So where do you start? Well, first things first, before you start, disclaimer, guys. All right, if you are going to get into this hobby, if you want to get into playing these games, the same way you see in my videos, understand this is not a plug and play hobby. This ain't no infomercial, guys. You can't just set it and forget it. Nope, that ain't gonna happen. Yes, I use terrible infomercial reference, but that's what I feel like sometimes. Like, this is not just a game, a single game or program you buy and it's good to go, and you don't have to know how to do anything. No, you have to understand software. You have to understand how to change settings. You have to understand how to tweak things. You have to understand how to download and install things. If you do not like messing around with software at all whatsoever, this is going to be not the best hobby for you. I'm not saying that you can't still install stuff and get it working, but I'm giving the disclaimer right now at the very beginning before anyone jumps in. If you've seen all my videos like this here and you want to do the same stuff, you can, but you're going to have to invest a lot of time, whether it's installing the software, which doesn't take too long, getting the games. These are all free games that we make, guys, for fun, for this hobby. Where to find these games, how to set them up, how to get the Pinup Player backglasses or, the cool looking DMDs. All that stuff is going to require time on your part. So I want to make this very clear before anyone decides, hey, he's going to make this easy for me. I'm going to make it easier for you, but I'm not going to basically walk your hand and do all the work for you. I'm just going to show you how to do it. But then after that point, you're going to have to invest a lot of time if you want to play all this cool stuff once the software is installed. So now that we have that disclaimer out of the way, now I'm going to show you where we start. So where I recommend is going to the Pinup Virtual Pinball System wiki page. Here is a nice all-in-one install page that myself and Nailbuster have been setting up, and we update it over time. So that way, even if this video gets out of date, you can still come back here and you'll still have the essential links for where all the programs you need to install are, all the updates you need, the order and how you start from scratch. all that is going to be here. So I highly recommend coming here. And if you're on the main page like this, then you click install and it brings you here. So this is where we're going to start. I'm going to be just like one of you guys. I'm going to start from scratch here. Now, this is on my test PC. So I'm going to kind of go through this with the perception of a desktop and a cabinet user. And I'm going to make references to both throughout. All right. So once this video is done, you're not going to be completely ready to go. You might be for visual pinball tables. You can download and install those, but you're still going to have to do some setups. And that's going to be in a separate video. I'm going to do a separate visual pinball setup video. I'm going to do a separate future pinball setup video and a separate FX3 video. So at the end of this video, you'll be ready to then move on to separate videos for that, which those will eventually come. So always look in the description of this video in case things are updated or changed. So, all right, now that enough blabbing, we're going to get started. So first, you're going to come here. You're going to come and you're going to read everything on here. You're going to read all of it. And you're going to come through and I give a nice description. I give, some guidance here. The first thing you're going to do before you start downloading and installing anything is antivirus software. You have to understand that sometimes it will flag certain files or programs and may remove them even though they're safe and clean and fine to use. So you're going to need to disable antivirus software if you have it installed. And then you're going to need to add exceptions to all the folders, like all the install locations for the programs you install. I'm telling you, by doing that, it's way easier now. Myself, I have my antivirus disabled on this system, so I'm not going to have to go through that hassle to show you guys. So now that we know antivirus or malware software is disabled and we have exceptions set up, now we'll go and we'll start with installing all the software. So first thing first, we're going to install 7-zip. I highly recommend you use this for your exe file or for your zip files. The reason why is, and it could be 32-bit or 64-bit, it doesn't matter. And you can just go ahead and install it to the default. That's fine. And that's it. So the reason why is, if you look here, when you download files, sometimes Windows will block them if it thinks it came from another computer and it may not be trusted. So what you have to do is you have to, well, I'll show you actually. So I just downloaded this file. So you would have to right click the file, go to properties, and then you have to check down here, just like the picture shows you, to make sure it's not blocked. If it's blocked, you'll see this little security blurb, and you'll have to click the unblock button before you can actually use the file. And this goes for zip files as well. So if you download a zip file, make sure you do what I just did right now first before extracting the files. Now, 7-zip is good for helping to automatically get rid of that most of the time, but you never take a chance. You always check the files you've extracted just in case. And then sometimes when you install new files, if you forgot to do that, then you may have some of the files blocked and your programs won't run correctly and you'll get a lot of headaches. So it's just a good habit to be in whenever downloading and installing anything. So now that we're all set up to start downloading, we're going to go at it. So first, we're going to get the Visual Pinball All-in-One installer. Now, even if you're a future pinball player or an FX3 player, all of this software that we're going to install in order is essential. One way or another, it doesn't matter if you're a cabinet user, you're going to need it eventually one day for all the software you need to control all your lighting and everything else. If you're a desktop user, you're going to need it for things like PuP-Packs or DOFLinx to control the PuP-Packs. So all this software is absolutely essential. So don't skip any of it and do it in order. Now, if you're someone who installed just Visual Pinball at some point, and then you're like, well, I got Visual Pinball, I'm good. No, you still need the all-in-one installer. So I highly recommend, if you've never started with the all-in-one installer and the up-to-date one, then start from scratch. It's immensely easier. You can always copy your table files, your ROM files, and everything else over separately. So that way it's a clean install, and then you just copy the games and the ROM files over, and then you start from scratch, and it's way easier. Highly recommend. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches. So that's what we're going to do right now. You can download the all-in-one installer, which will give you Visual Pinball, PinMAME, B2S Server, Ultra DMD. So if you're not sure what some of that stuff is, Ultra DMD is used on some tables, like mostly original tables that don't have any other DMD because they're in visual pinball. Let's see here. I was trying to think of some examples here. For B2S Server, it's kind of like the in-between of controlling all sorts of software like Pinup Player, DOFLinx, it also is what controls all these backglasses for visual pinball, the direct B2S backglasses. So it's essential for almost everything that we use. And PinMAME, well, I mean, if you had it, now this DMD that you see here, if we didn't have PinMAME, or sorry, if PinMAME is like an uglier version of this. PinMAME is like the internal, older emulated DMD that's been around for years. But we technically won't be using it, but the software is still required because that's what communicates from the ROM of the game. It emulates the ROM, is what it does, and then communicates that with visual pinball. So you need that installed as well. So this is going to install all of that stuff and get you up to date. So we're going to do that. It's going to do it all in one shot, nice and easy for you. So much easier, guys. This is where you need to start. So we're going to start here. So you can either get it from VP Forums or you can get it from VPinball. Either one's fine. So I recommend putting all your stuff in one nice organized location, different folders so that you know what is what. So we're going to open up that zip file and then we're going to run the installer. All right. Nice and easy. So you'll hit next. Now, where you install it, I highly recommend installing it into like a nice separate location, not mixed in with a whole bunch of other stuff. Make it the default is normally C Visual Pinball. It may show up differently for you if you installed it somewhere else at a previous time, but change it to where you want it to go. However, never, ever install anything in your C drive on program files x86 or program files. If you're given a choice for like any of these games or emulators or that kind of thing, I do not install them here because you'll have lots of administrative security issues by doing so. So stay away from doing that. Trust me, you'll get rid of a lot of headaches. So install it to a good default location like this. Defaults are highly recommended for all this software. It'll save you so many headaches because then everyone else can help you that much easier. All right, so now it's going to ask you what you want for what type of DMD you're using. So if you have a real DMD, a hardware DMD, that's going to be one of these four down here. You'll check the one that you are using in a cabinet. Now, if you're not using a real DMD, you're just using a virtual DMD, like a normal monitor, that could be in a cabinet, just like that's what this is right here. That this DMD that's being displayed is with DMDext. That's the software that it's installing. All right. Nice. Geez, where was I? Oh, there we were. So we're going to install the software for that because we need it. So if you have a desktop setup or you're a cabinet with a virtual DMD, then that's what you're installing is DMDext. You have to choose one of them. So we'll install that. So now it's going to go and it's going to install Visual Pinball, all the files, everything that's needed all into one folder. And that's where you want the stuff to be installed by default. It's just so much easier that way. Now, DirectX, make sure you don't install the Bing bar. I don't know why Microsoft is still doing that stupid crap. So it does. Now, it's good that it does that because you need that. You need DirectX updated and installed. And same with a .NET. Now, I have mine already up to date, so that's why it's saying it doesn't need to, so that's normal. Now, this one is extremely important to pay attention to. What it's asking you is, do you want B2S Server installed? That's what it means by when it says, do you have a second monitor? Now, if you don't have a second monitor, and you're just a normal desktop single screen setup, you still need to install this because this is the B2S Server software. This is just going to be on the system. It doesn't like run live on your system in the background all the time. It's just going to be on there if another program needs to use it to communicate with plugins and other things. So it's used for almost everything here is using B2S Server one way or another. So I mean, that program is essential. So make sure you install it. So you want to hit yes no matter what. All right, so now it's been registered. That's good. So this is popping up. So what this is asking you is, where do you want your Visual Pinball direct B2S backglass to be installed at? So if you're not sure what that is, that's what this was here. This is a direct B2S backglass. When the Visual Pinball table loads, it uses B2S Server to load a separate backglass file. All right, so that's what we're setting up right now when that prompts you. Now, if you have a cabinet, you would set it up to where you're going to have that, what screen it is, what resolution it's going to be. Now, in the case of a single screen desktop or setup, only one screen, you can still use it. You absolutely can. Like actually, I had it right here. So in this case, for WAS on Visual Pinball, this is a direct B2S backglass set up in the corner. Now that's going to be another video where I showed you guys how to do that. But the point is, you can use it on desktop. Now, if you're not sure exactly how to set it up, because you have to wait till you get to my other video that's going to show you how to set all this cool stuff up in desktop. Then if you're not sure, you can just exit out. But if you're a cabinet user, go ahead and set it up like normal. For me, I'm just going to do 720. So this is how wide, how high it's going to be. The position, I don't know for sure. So I'll just put like maybe 1100 by 2 or something for now. So what that's going to do for my setup here is it's just going to put it way over here and right around here somewhere. And you can come back and change this, and I'll show you where to do that. So, and you got to make sure you choose the right monitor. So that's it. And look at that. And that's it. So your Visual Pinball all-in-one installer is done. So that's actually enough to get you running many Visual Pinball tables. Like just doing that, like that's I would say 80% of what you need done for Visual Pinball. So now that that's done, we're going to now apply the update. Now, again, you have 2 locations. You've got VP Forums, the beta thread, and if you're getting it from here, pay attention to, again, this will have the updated link. So if it's changing compared to this video, don't worry. You'll get the first post will always have the newest beta release right here. If you're getting it from VPinball, then you've got it from here, but you gotta uncheck all these guys. It's just because of the way the guy updated it or installed. So you'll have to uncheck all these guys. Oh, geez. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of all those, and we're gonna install. Now, understand betas. They can be. Not, I don't want to say risky, but they can sometimes have bugs. That's obvious. That's going to be a given. So it's fine. You can always go down to an older version if you absolutely have to. But I will say with Visual Pinball, they've been pretty good with updates. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to where we installed, which, where are we here? I got to go back to where my install is. There we are. All right. So that was my old backup. That's not where we installed. This is where we are, Visual Pinball. All right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to update all these files. So you can see Visual Pinball X. All these files are just going to replace everything. So you drag and drop, and we're going to replace them all. And that's how you update. It's that simple. There really isn't anything else to it than that. The big thing to understand with Visual Pinball is making sure you don't get certain files in the wrong location. So, for example, script files. This is a big one. When you update, you're getting all the newest scripts here. So make sure that you only have the new ones from this update when you copy them over. Like, don't go back to an older version and mix and match files. If you get the newest update, everything's nicely done. You just drag and drop it. It keeps everything nicely updated. You don't want any VBS files, any of these guys, getting mixed in the tables folder here. Okay. So now we're up to date for Visual Pinball, and this is where you can set up your B2S again, if you're not sure. All right, remember what I showed you? So you go back into your Visual Pinball tables folder. that's where B2S Server is installed. Everything that uses B2S Server will be referencing this location, and that's the default location. It's so much easier. Even if you're only using Future Pinball, just install everything by the default setup. It's so much easier. So now that that's done, all right. So we're going to go back to where we were because I accidentally closed that. So now that we've updated Visual Pinball, now we're going to update the SAM build for PinMAME. So what that is it's just updating the PinMAME portion to the newest one. So it may be newer than what you're seeing here, but it's still the same idea. You're going to go to the first post in this thread, and you're going to go down here, and you're going to download that. And yes, of course, you have to be registered on these forums. I highly recommend every one of these sites be part of the community, guys. All right. Take part in everything that they have to offer. You'll learn so much more as a result. So now that we have the newer files for PinMAME, those will go into your VPinMAME folder. All right. So it's going to update all these files here. So you just drag and drop. And that's it. All right. So now that that's done, now we're going to go to our B2S server update. So this is a newer update from as of this time when I put this video up. This is a newer update compared to the official update. You definitely want this one or higher because it's got certain features that are very, very handy for especially Pinup Player and PuP-Packs. So you definitely want to have that one. And it's got some fixes. It's just always a good idea to have the newest versions. So where does that go? Well, again, remember I told you you go to your Visual Pinball folder, tables, and then it's going to be in here. These are your B2S backlash files. We're going to replace them. So replace it. So now that's not enough to update it. You absolutely have to do this next step just in case. So what you do is you go to this register app and you're going to re-register B2S Server for this location. And you're going to right click it and then you're going to do it as administrator. I don't care what kind of setup you have on Windows, what kind of bypasses or anything else you have, still run it as administrator. All right. And there you go. It's been registered. So now we're up to date with B2S Server. So 2 more left to go. All right, so the next one is DMDext, aka freezy or DMD extensions. What is that? These files are going to be two sets of files that serve a few functions. The first thing it's going to be is it's going to be an update to the DMD down here. This is the actual DMDext DMD that is displaying. So PinMAME has a setting to use the internal ugly old PinMAME DMD, or you can use an external file that would then display the DMD to a virtual screen or a hardware screen or whatever. So this is what we're updating right now. Now it does this for Visual Pinball through a DLL file. For FX3, now I know it's hard to see, it's displaying a DMD down here. Let's see if we can show it better. Yeah. This is also DMDext. However, it's a separate file. It's an exe file. So it's a little confusing. DMDext.exe is actually this for Pinball FX3 or the Pinball Arcade, not for Visual Pinball. Okay? They're two separate things working the same way. This is a DMD device.dll. So that's what we're updating right now. So we're going to get that. You'll click on this link. It'll bring you to this page, giving you all the information of how to set it up and install it. All of that is right here. But the link to his website, to freezy's website, is right here. Now you're going to see it may have a newer version. 1.7.2 right now has some issues, so we're not going to be using that. Now, again, always consult the install guide. It'll have you up to date with newer versions that may already work better by the time you see this video. So you want to go currently, as of this time, to 1.71. And we're going to go down. Now you have two choices. This one is a 64-bit version. This one is a 32-bit version. I know it's a little confusing. Even though your Windows may be 64-bit, we only use the 32-bit version files. The reason why is Visual Pinball is 32-bit. PinMAME is 32-bit. Therefore, it needs to work with that. So it's important that you use only that file, that zip. So we're going to download this x86. x86 is old school for 32-bit, like the old school 286, 386, 486 CPUs. x64 means 64-bit version. So this is one that a lot of people get mixed up on. So where does this go? This goes into your VPinMAME folder. Now, not any subfolder. Like, yeah, look right here. See this DMDext folder? No, it does not go in there. And you know what you'll be doing? I recommend deleting that. That way you do not get confused. You do not put it in there. Those are backup files. The copy over. Now you don't need it because you've got the backups from this zip, right? So you don't need to have a subfolder for that. So we're gonna, well, here actually, see what I was talking about. This guy here, this DMDext exe here. He, as I mentioned before, is for this DMD for FX3. So that's what he's used for. This guy and this guy, the DLL files, are used for Pinup Popper or Pinup Player and the DMD. We need that so that this program can then push out the DMD images to this, but then that DLL file will then push out those same images to Pinup Player, and Pinup Player will see these images and then trigger certain videos. I actually don't even have one up and going. I don't actually have an example showing right now, but that's how PuP-Packs work. Is they need this software installed and configured for Pinup Player to work. So I hope that wasn't confusing, but that's what we're installing this for the nicer virtual DMD, the colorized DMDs, and for Pinup Player. All those need these files. So now you've updated that, and so that you understand what you're using these configure. So for Visual Pinball, you're going to configure your DMD, this guy here, the size of the DMD and the location of the DMD, whether it's on a cabinet or on a desktop setup, either or, that will be configured here. Excuse me, sorry guys. I had to sneeze there. So you're going to configure that in this file here, the INI file, DMD device INI. So you'll go through here and you're going to configure everything as appropriate. Now, if you have a real DMD, you'll enable the one you need. Otherwise, you're going to go false, false, and then this one here, false, because we're doing a virtual DMD. That's what I have. If you have a real, the correct real one, enable it. And this is the important one down here. You want Pinup Player enabled, because what's going to happen is whenever any of those tables are launched and this file is being used for the DMD, then all the images also get passed to Pinup Player. That's what enables it. So you have to have that if you want to use PuP-Packs. Now, for the rest of this, you don't need to flip any of that stuff unless you got a P2K cab. Colorize, we want it to be true. Virtual DMD, you keep that true only if you're using an LCD DMD. If you got a real one, then you don't need to have that enabled. Virtual DMD stays on top. You don't need to have that. I've never had a need to use that. Maybe in a cab, for some reason you might, but on desktop, never had a need for that. So just leave it as false. Hide the grip. We want that to be true. That's the little thing in the corner here for resizing. It looks ugly and you don't need it. Leave ignore aspect ratio false. Use the registry for size and position. No, I'll say no, because we can just enter that manually and you don't have to double guess anything. So leave that as false, because you can confuse yourself by doing that. So the position left. So this is going to be your X, Y, width, and height. So X is the starting position here. Y is the starting position here. And how wide is how wide the DMD will be and how high it'll be. So you set all those in here. Now I'm just going to leave that as is for now. Because I'm going to get more into sizing all that into another video. But for you, if you have a cabinet, you would set that up to the size and location in here. So that's where that's set up. If you have a virtual one, well, I recommend, if you're using a desktop single screen setup, I recommend keeping that installed to the top left corner. So maybe I don't know, maybe 2 and 2, and then depending on the size of what you have, you might want to make that smaller. So maybe like 512 by, and you always want it to be a 4-to-1 ratio, because that's what DMDs are. The size of them, it's 4, whatever it is wide divided by 4 for the height. So just keep that ratio in mind. And the dot size, you can leave it at 1. That's fine. So that's the basics for that. The only thing after that you really need to do is either, for your real DMD guys, you would either enable that and then disable the false. But everything else is pretty much what you'd want. So we'll hit save. And we'll come back to that in another video when we're doing all the visual pinball stuff. So let's take a look. Is that the last of it? Oh, I think we got one more thing. All right, so DOFR3++. What is this used for? Well, all this stuff you see that has like lighting of any sort in any of these tables, MX LEDs or anything else, beacons, any hardware control in a cabinet for visual pinball, for future pinball, for Pinball FX3, all that stuff only happens because of DOF. And this is the newest version we have currently that MJR has updated. So you need it for cabinet stuff. But even if you're a desktop guy, if you want to have any of these to be able to have a PuP-Pack on a desktop single screen setup, you still want to have that for DOFLinx, because DOFLinx is needed for that for future pinball, PuP-Packs, and FX3 PuP-Packs. So you want to have it for that just in case. So let's just go ahead and install that. Super easy, nothing hard. So you come to MJR's page here, and down here you're going to look for the installer file. So you want to download and install that. And don't forget, with all these files, if you're not sure, make sure they're not blocked. Okay? Just double check them. All right, so now we're going to install DOF, or Direct Output Framework is what it stands for. So there we go. So it's going to ask you, where do you want your thing to go? I highly recommend your C drive direct output, something separate that's not mixed in with anything else, just like we did with the visual pinball install. This is the most common location, is this right here, your C drive direct output. I highly recommend using the standard default location. So you hit next, you're going to install it. All right, so if it comes up with this, now if you don't understand what the heck that means, basically what this means is if you run a visual pinball table without one of these, now that we have all this software installed, an error will pop up saying you do not have a backglass file installed. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just letting you know that you're missing a backglass file because it's assuming you're going to be using that. So all this was doing was trying to disable that. Now, we're going to go through that anyway, but and I'll show you where to do that. But that's what this error is for. Don't worry about that because they're saying they just couldn't do it. The reason why it's saying that in my case is because I've not set anything up yet. So it doesn't have a config file for any of these yet. So that's why it doesn't see anything yet. And that's it, guys. I know that went on for a while, but I figured it'd be better to give explanations as we go. So believe it or not, that is the end of our essentials, our essential installation files for virtual pinball. Now, from this point on, we get specific. Now, I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm going to separate them into separate videos. That way, it's easier for you guys to keep track in case you already had this installed and you want to go back to visual pinball or something else. So the only other thing I'll recommend is if you have a cabinet set up, my God, please follow this. Please I know some people like to run it in portrait, which you can, but you're going to make more work for yourself because most visual pinball tables are not in portrait, and therefore you're going to have to manually change the point of view for all tables to make them look correct. So this is the ideal way to have your screens laid out. Your play field first, backlash and DMD toppers are the other screens afterward, ideally to the right, not above or to the left, because those are negative coordinates as far as Windows is concerned. And while it may seem to work now, it does give you problems at different points for certain programs. Trust me, it's not worth trying to do other setups. So ideally have it set up this way. And also for any setup, whether it's desktop or cabinet, you have to have your display set to 100%. So if you're not sure, you right click, display, and then you look 100%. Okay, you have to have it set up for that. If you don't, then you're gonna have problems down the line with PuP-Packs, score lettering, oddball things that are going to be too they're not going to match. It's just not going to work right or look right. Certain programs will run too large. They won't be scaling correctly. It'll be a huge pain in the butt for everything. Just don't do anything but 100. Now, if you have a 4K screen, I sympathize because I have one as well. So my recommendation is install all the software, get everything ready to go. But then when you actually run anything, you have to switch it to 100 if you absolutely have to, because I know the fonts are really small in 4K at 100%. I understand that. But when you go to run or play anything, you have to switch it to 100 and then reboot Windows. You have to do that because it won't work correctly until you have a fresh login with 100%. So that's the only other thing I could think of for the initial setup. So that's it, guys. That's it for our first setup. Our files are ready to go. So now we're ready to start the journey to move on to the actual specific emulators and get them up and running. So I guess I'll see you in that video. Look for others on my channel. Now, these may not be in any particular order. I'll try to get them in a playlist or something, I guess. But either way, always come back to this page for installing the files or looking for updates just in case things have changed, no matter what this video says. So thanks for watching. I know it's been a bit of a long one, but I'd rather you have the information and see what happens when everything's installed. Much easier for you guys and much easier for me when you guys are asking so many questions. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Enjoy the journey, guys. You got to put a lot of work into it, but you know, in the end, it can pay off. So thanks. Bye.